It was the second year after I took a bullet for Harrison. My cover was blown. In the freezing dungeon. His rough thumb ground down on the gland at the back of my neck. His tone was ice cold. "Vinny, what is your actual objective here?" I tried my best to curve my eyes into a smile. I answered cheekily, "To be with you." Harrison let out a cold laugh. He ordered his men to inject me with a massive dose of heat inducer. "Don't." Panicked. My voice went hoarse as I begged him. "I have an old injury in my gland. If you inject that, I'll die." Using that old injury as leverage again? Harrison said indifferently, "If you actually die, then I'll believe you." So I just stared at him blankly and stopped struggling. The inducer was like a scorching fuse. It instantly ignited the blood throughout my body. I'm not. My glands swelled instantly. The scent of plum wine erupted violently. Sweet, astringent, and cold. That was my pheromone. I gritted my teeth and swallowed a groan of pain. The rest of my words were instantly drowned out by the agony. I wasn't using the injury as leverage. And I wasn't lying to you. My gland, it really has been hurting for a long time. If you inject the inducer, I really will die. 2 years ago, when I took that bullet for Harrison, the bullet nearly pierced right through my omega gland. My blood soaked Harrison's clothes. The top-tier alpha looked like a demon from hell. He stood outside the emergency room all night until he got the news that I survived. "We saved his life," the doctor said, "but we can't be sure about the severity of the aftereffects." So, from then on, I used his gratitude to get what I wanted. I acted spoiled, I played the victim. I tricked Harrison into giving me so many kisses and hugs. "Harrison, my wound hurts again. Kiss me, hurry. Just a kiss and it'll be better." "Harrison, my gland feels terrible. Can you hold me while I sleep?" "Harrison, Harrison." At first, he was nervous, always sweeping me up into a Princess Carrie. Face taut, he'd roar at the servants, "Call the doctor." Later, he gradually realized something was off. He would press me into the bedding. Voice low, he'd say, "Vinny, you're faking it." I would immediately act even more pitiful, quietly accusing him of biting the hand that fed him. Harrison would freeze, then stop pressing the issue. The way he indulged me, even with that cold look on his face, it made me dependent on him. It gave me the illusion, as if we could be this happy forever. But I don't remember when it started. The gland actually began to hurt. It's the aftereffect of the gunshot wound. The doctor spoke with serious concern. "You must avoid inducing heat. You also need to be careful during marking. Don't let him bite too deep, or it could be life-threatening." "Do I need to give special instructions to your alpha?" "You're going to need more meticulous care from now on." I shook my head, thanked him, and said goodbye. Maybe I'd told too many lies. Now that it really hurt, I didn't want Harrison to know anymore. I would just ask him to hold me a little tighter when I hid in his arms. The inducer began to take effect. My hands were tied behind my back to the chair. I felt my whole body heating up. My breathing was rapid, and I struggled against the restraints in distress. Finally, I tilted my head back. I couldn't help but call out Harrison's name in a small voice. It sounded like urgent need, but also like begging for mercy. "Didn't you say you'd die?" Harrison looked down from above, his tone mocking. "How come you're not dead? You seem to be getting more and more excited." "Vinny, I will never believe another word you say." I looked up. In his deep, cold pupils, I saw my own reflection. Eyes brimming with physiological tears. Flushed under the eyes, but lips pale. It did look very much like an omega in typical heat. But the needle-like agony all over my body reminded me. My gland was on the verge of collapse. "Harrison, in the future, I won't be able to protect you anymore. I really am an undercover agent sent by the federal military, but I have never betrayed you." I looked into Harrison's eyes and said with all my remaining strength, "I really like you. I've liked you for a long, long time. That's why I tried so hard to get close to you. I even secretly passed information I gathered about the federal military to you. But it was strange. The cell was empty, and my words suddenly had no echo. The pain vanished abruptly. I froze for a moment. I realized I was free from the ropes. I was standing in front of Harrison. His gaze went right through me. He was frowning, looking at the person still tied to the chair. The Omega who had been restless just a moment ago. Now his head hung quietly, motionless. Only 2 tears suddenly fell, landing on the knot of the rope binding me. Harrison saw them and sneered, worthy of an undercover agent trained by the military. Even now, you won't tell the truth, but you still have the energy to play the victim. He turned and walked out, saying without looking back, "You can keep acting, but I won't watch and I won't believe it. I wasn't playing the victim, and I won't be acting anymore." I glanced at myself, tied to the chair, silent and still. I whispered, because I think I've already died. The heavy cell door slammed shut. Bang! A strange force pulled me to Harrison's side. In a low voice, he told the bodyguard stationed outside, "The prisoner inside has been forced into heat. He probably won't last long before he begs you to open the door or wants to confess everything to me. Just guard this spot. Do not believe a word he says." The bodyguard nodded. "Yes, sir." Harrison took the elevator upstairs. The doors opened. Chase hurried over, asking carefully, "Mr. President, did Vinny confess?" Harrison gave him a flat glance and said coldly, "No." However, he stared into Chase's eyes, asking as if casually, "How did you know where Vinny kept the communicator he used to contact the military?" I felt he was suspicious for a long time. I found it later when I made an excuse to borrow the bathroom in his room. Chase looked composed as he spoke calmly. Omegas are easily influenced by each other's pheromones. Recently, I noticed Vinny couldn't control his pheromones well. Sometimes I could smell that heavy plum wine scent even in public areas. So I guessed he was using his pheromones as a signal to guide the assassins. He is lying. My pheromones were fluctuating because of the old injury in my gland. I never allowed Chase into my room, and I never passed any valid information to the military. Besides, I always deleted the messages on the communicator immediately. It was impossible to leave evidence. The only possibility was that the final message revealing Harrison's itinerary was sent by Chase using my communicator. Chase, he was also an undercover agent sent by the military. Knock, knock, knock. The door opened. The executive assistant handed a file to Harrison and said, "Sir, the fingerprints on the communicator have been extracted. This is the final result." The room was silent. My hollow soul seemed to vibrate with his accelerated heartbeat. Harrison looked up at Chase's eyes and opened the file. I walked over and saw the result. On the communicator, there was only one person's fingerprint. Mine. Right. I realized belatedly, Chase had planned this long ago. How could he easily leave his own prints? Chase already knew the result. His eyes reddened as he whispered, "Sir, you can't suspect me. Because, back when we were in the orphanage, I saved your life once. Have you forgotten?" Hearing this, I could no longer stay calm. I rushed straight at him, reaching out to slam him against the wall. But my spirit passed through him like smoke. I couldn't move him a single inch. I could only watch helplessly, watching Chase impersonate me and claim that bond with Harrison. But back then in the orphanage, the person who was with Harrison day and night, the one who saved him, that was me. Harrison was the only son of the former president of the Federation. When he was 6, his car was hijacked. The president and the first lady sacrificed their lives to protect him. He escaped alone. Later, he was found and sent to the orphanage. He had been on the run for a long time. He was so thin he was just a bag of bones. When I saw the bad kids surrounding him, I put my hands on my hips and stood in front of him. Chin up, acting like a little tyrant, I said, "He's my person. You can't bully him." I got a severe beating for that. Tiny Harrison crawled up and lunged at the lead bully's face, biting him. That's what saved me. The two of us, faces covered in dirt, sat close together under the big tree in the backyard. "I am not your person," little Harrison frowned, correcting me in a mature tone. I wasn't angry at all. I grinned and said, "Then I'm your person." I thought I could be Harrison's little sidekick forever. But 6 months later, someone tracked him to the orphanage to assassinate him. The Federation presidency is hereditary. With Harrison's parents dead, his uncle, Harlan, temporarily took over as commander of the military. If Harrison didn't die, Harlan could never become president. I ran a long way with Harrison, eventually hiding in a small hole in the ruins. Harry, I whispered his name urgently. Quick, take off your clothes. Let me wear them. Harrison watched me frantically undoing his buttons and asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" I pulled off his jacket and smiled beamingly. "Dummy, you know the lure the tiger from the mountain trick? I'll wear your clothes and run. When they chase me, you run the other way and go find the police. They don't want to catch me anyway. I'll be fine. Once they're gone, I'll come back for you." That day, wearing Harrison's clothes, I ran fast. The rushing wind filled the oversized sleeves. I ran clumsily, never looking back. I didn't see Harrison get rescued, and I didn't expect that when I came back to find him, it would be so long after. Long enough that he couldn't recognize me anymore. Dummy. I stood in front of Harrison, complaining softly, "How did you not recognize me?" Harrison couldn't hear me. His gaze passed through me and landed on Chase's face. "Are you Vinny?" Vinny was my name in the orphanage, because when the director found me, there was a half-empty bottle of vintage wine tucked in my blanket. Chase, eyes filled with hot tears, nodded and stepped forward to hug Harrison. I thought he would be rejected, because Harrison never liked people touching him. He even wore gloves to shake hands. But he didn't push Chase away. Even though his posture was stiff, he gently patted Chase's back. Thoughtfully, he said, "Vinny, is it really you?" I thought. "Chase, thought what?" Harrison snapped back to reality and said seriously, "Nothing. I just thought you didn't escape that year." Chase looked up and said, "I'm still alive, and I finally found you. But why do I feel like you're not very happy?" Yeah, why isn't he happy? I looked at Harrison's calm, reserved face and thought, he probably forgot. After all, it's been so long. Forgetting that little fool of a sidekick is normal. I lowered my lashes and smiled faintly. Yeah, I was pretty stupid. All those years, foolishly chasing after someone. Chase continued, "Is it because of that other Vinny? He's just a spy. Yesterday he almost got you hurt." "Enough," Harrison said in a low voice. "Go back to your room and rest." Chase didn't leave. He added, "Are you still soft-hearted toward him? His kindness toward you was all professional training. Taking that bullet for you back then was definitely a bitter meat trick." "Enough," Harrison interrupted him, looking displeased. "I don't need you to remind me of these things." Seeing Chase leave reluctantly, the family doctor finally walked over with the medical kit. "Sir, your abrasion hasn't been treated yet." Harrison lifted his arm, revealing a large patch of crimson on his elbow. I froze for a moment, remembering why Harrison was hurt. He was protecting me. Today, halfway through our outing, there was sudden movement at the highly secured meeting point. The moment the gunshot rang out, he quickly got up, shielded me in his arms, and tackled me behind cover. He even used his own body as a cushion when we hit the ground. That was why his elbow was severely scraped, dripping blood on the spot. A dozen bodyguards immediately rushed over to surround us. I was in the center, protected underneath Harrison. In the darkness, his breathing was heavy and rapid. The scent of volcanic ash pheromones wrapped around me completely. The chaos and noise of the scene instantly seemed distant. Harrison was the one who needed protection. Yet I heard him whisper to me, "It's okay." He said, "Don't be afraid." On the ride back, Harrison looked grim, listening to his subordinates' investigation reports the whole way. He only put down the phone when we were almost home. I held his elbow and gently blew on the wound. I asked seriously, "Does it hurt a lot? Do you want a kiss?" "It's very effective." I just wanted to tease Harrison. I thought he would impatiently say, "Stop it," or tell me to shut up. But Harrison looked at me intently for a few seconds. Then he suddenly looked away, cleared his throat, and said, "No need. I wanted to say thank you back then. I wanted to ask, Harrison, why did you protect me?" But somehow I suddenly felt I didn't need to ask. I stared foolishly at Harrison's perfect side profile. I decided that when we got home, I would tell him the whole truth. Tell him that I worked really, really hard to fool everyone just to come to his side and protect him. Tell him I originally wanted to wait until Harlan's plans failed and he became the Federation president before confessing. By then, Harrison would definitely believe me. Even if he was angry, even if I had to coax him for a long time, it would be okay. But I didn't expect. Before we even walked through the door, my cover was blown by Chase. I lied to you. I'm sorry. I looked at Harrison, who was getting his wound treated. I pulled at the corner of my lips and said silently, "But I can't coax you anymore." The wound was just bandaged. The secretary knocked and entered. "Sir, the President of the Republic sent a secret letter. He wants to meet to discuss matters regarding the federal military." Harrison immediately stood up, took the fresh shirt the butler handed him, and said habitually while putting it on, "Vinny, you come with." His words and movements stopped abruptly. Harrison frowned slightly. After dressing, he took the elevator down to the dungeon. The entire underground level was completely silent. Harrison curled his lips in disdain. He picked up the intercom by the door and spoke into it. "Vinny, are you tired from acting cute, playing the victim, and throwing tantrums?" There was no sound from the other side of the intercom. Harrison paused for a few seconds. He continued, "Or did you realize none of your tricks work and gave up?" Seeing there was still no reply, the bodyguard guarding the door suddenly spoke up. "Report, sir. Actually, since you went upstairs, the person inside hasn't made a sound." "Also," Harrison furrowed his brow. "Also what?" "Bodyguard. Also, the doctor came by just now. You ordered that no one was allowed inside, so the doctor just looked at him through the small window on the door a few times. Then the doctor said he was too calm, too quiet. He didn't look like an Omega forced into heat at all. He also said, he said that with this kind of reaction, if he hasn't undergone special training, then he's already dead." "Nonsense," Harrison scolded sharply. He opened the cell door and told the bodyguard, "Go get the doctor down here." The cell door was pushed open with force. It hit the wall with a dull thud. Harrison stood outside the door, backlit, cutting through light and shadow, carrying the pressure of judgment. "Vinny, I am giving you one last chance." He glanced at me faintly, his expression distant and cold. "Tell me everything you know about Harlan's plans to attack the Republic. Maybe I'll consider giving you a little pheromone." Harrison's tone was relaxed, effortless, because my pheromones were highly compatible with Harrison's. During heat, no Omega could resist that temptation, even if it meant throwing away dignity and boundaries. Harrison must be thinking that too. He must have remembered the times I begged him for pheromones. When I was injured from taking that bullet. To soothe me and stop the pain, Harrison released a massive amount of pheromones, almost overdrawing his gland. During the follow-up treatment and recovery, he would always silently release pheromones for me, just because the doctor said, highly compatible alpha pheromones are beneficial for the Omega's gland recovery. After recovering and returning home, Harrison got busier day by day, so it turned into me pestering him for it. Sometimes I would cling to his desk like an octopus, interrupting his endless overtime.
"I'm dying."
I tremblingly reached out a hand to him, acting like I was on my deathbed. "For the sake of me taking a bullet for you, give me a little more pheromone." Harrison, of course, wouldn't laugh. He stopped writing, eyelids half lowered, looking at me expressionlessly. He said, "Vinny, do you realize you are sexually harassing your superior?" But when he saw me stand up dejectedly, ready to leave, he still grabbed my wrist. Helplessly, he whispered, "Come closer." Seeing me freeze, he proudly hooked the corner of his lips and said, "Didn't you want it?" I gave a silly then suddenly straddled Harrison's lap, hugging him face to face. My nose tip almost touched the gland at the back of Harrison's neck.
Ido.
I said righteously, "Hurry up and give it to me." Harrison stiffened all over, tightening his arm around my waist hard. He gritted his teeth. "Vinny, do you have no shame?" I hugged him shamelessly, feeling secure. Nope, because my gland felt like it was going to explode from the pain. It really hurt, maybe realizing I was trembling slightly. Harrison immediately became less fierce. When the volcanic ash pheromones wrapped around me layer by layer, he whispered, "In the future, you aren't allowed to pretend you're dying. As long as you say it hurts, I'll give it to you. You promised you would give it." I stood outside the cell door, thinking silently, "But I'm dead, and you still haven't given me any." The bound Omega sat wretchedly in the shadows. A beam of light projected down from the high vent, creating a spot of light on the black hair hanging over his forehead. In an instant, it seemed like bird wings brushed past. The light spot flickered. It looked just like the Omega's hair moved gently. Harrison saw it and mocked, "Vinny, you're not much of an undercover agent, but you're getting better and better at playing dead." Seeing I still didn't answer, he finally lifted his foot to walk into the cell. "Sir." Harrison stopped at the voice, turning to see the bodyguard walking down the stairs. "Sir, Mr. Chase suddenly fell ill. The doctor is treating him right now and can't get away. But the doctor said he'll come down to see Mr. Vinny soon, and he'll report the diagnosis to you immediately." Harrison frowned. He was fine just a moment ago. How could he suddenly be sick? As he spoke, his phone rang. It was the secretary. On the other end, he reminded tactfully, "Sir, the president has arrived at the meeting point early." "Understood." Harrison hung up. He looked at the Omega in the dungeon with some impatience. "Vinny," he said coldly, in a tone that brooked no argument, "I don't have time to stand here waiting for you to weigh your words and fabricate lies. This is your last chance. Think about how to tell the truth and have the bodyguard call me. I didn't fabricate anything. Everything I told you was the truth. I like you, I want to be with you. I never betrayed you." The cell door closed, and Harrison turned to take the elevator upstairs. I watched his retreating back, silently saying, "Also, the Gland has an old injury. It really will kill me." My soul uncontrollably followed behind Harrison. As I walked to the car at the entrance, I saw the doctor's white coat flash through the door. I thought, Harrison should receive news of my death very soon. The long wheelbase Phantom started up, sliding smoothly and quickly onto the main road. Harrison stared intently at the computer screen on the tray table, his expression focused and deep. But after passing several traffic lights, the page on the screen hadn't moved an inch. Harrison looked up sharply, meeting the driver's eyes in the rearview mirror. He closed the computer, sighed lightly, and asked, "If you have something to say, say it." The driver was a beta uncle who had been with Harrison for many years. His repeated sneaking glances had finally been noticed. Embarrassed, he said, "I just find it a little strange that Mr. Vinny isn't with you today." Harrison pressed, "You need him for something?" "Yes," the driver said. "My wife's gland was damaged during childbirth. After Mr. Vinny happened to find out, he helped me find a very good specialist for Omega glands. My wife and I are very grateful and wanted to invite him over for dinner." "An Omega gland specialist?" Harrison's expression became unreadable as he said seriously, "Who is it? Give me his information." The driver quickly did so, then asked hesitantly, "Is there something wrong with this doctor?" "Doctor?" Harrison scoffed, his voice cold. "Vinny's gland healed long ago. Why would he need a doctor? It would be more accurate to call him an accomplice." He dialed his secretary. He sent the doctor's information over and ordered, "Investigate thoroughly. Whether he's helping Vinny fake illness with false certificates or using his profession to infiltrate my driver's circle. This doctor must pay the price. The doctor is innocent." I sat beside Harrison, reaching out to grab his arm, begging him not to bother the doctor. But I couldn't even touch him. Harrison had high status, owning massive industries in the Republic and capital enough to monopolize the market. Even the president was his ally. Destroying a doctor's career was too easy for him. Suddenly, a teardrop penetrated Harrison's palm. I was stunned. I realized it was my own tear. Turns out I never had a way. I had no way to protect Harrison when we were little. Now I have no way to protect myself or the people who helped me. I must be crying because I feel helpless. Definitely not because I'm sad. Not that. Harrison hung up the phone. The car arrived at the destination. I followed him through a secret door in a restaurant. We met the president. Harrison, The mysterious person helping us has suddenly lost contact. The president got straight to the point. Except for a brief 3-day silence 2 years ago, she has always secretly passed me the latest information on Harlan on time. She helped us prevent several armed invasions and sneak attacks initiated by Harlan, and never asked for a reward. I have a feeling something might have happened to her. Harrison was calm and focused. Her? Yes, the president answered. In the secret files, she signs as Janine. Obviously a female name. Janine. Harrison seemed a bit distracted, silently spelling it out.
Janine.
His eyes flashed, and just as he was about to speak, the phone in his pocket vibrated suddenly. Harrison said sorry. Following the honesty pact of their cooperation, he put it on speaker. Sir. The family doctor's voice came out. Mr. Vinny, he has stopped breathing. Do you know what you are saying? Harrison's pupils shrank abruptly. Suppressing his rage, he said in a deep voice, "That's impossible. Are you joking with your career? Go examine him again carefully." He hung up. Harrison took a deep breath, as if trying his best to relax his expression. Soon, he said to the president with a normal face, "Apologies, please continue." President. Mr. President seems to have matters to attend to, so I'll keep it short. I used special technology to backtrack and found Janine's signal number. I sent her an anonymous message asking if she needs help. May I ask, among the women you have contacted, is there anyone who could be Janine? Harrison asked cautiously, "Why do you ask?" The president laughed. "Oh, don't overthink it. I just suspect Janine is an admirer of yours. She mentioned in a secret letter that she does these things not for the Republic, nor for money, but only for you. She said you are from the Federation. If she sent the information directly to you, it would leave evidence that could be used against you. She worried that when you reclaim the position of Federation President, the Alliance and the public would say you colluded with a neighboring country, which would be disadvantageous to you. So by sending the information to me, she could use the Republic's hand to suppress that warmonger Harlan. This way, it saves the people of both the Republic and the Federation from the suffering of war, and helps you smoothly regain the president's seat. She is very smart. Harrison, can you really not think of who this person is?" Silence for a few seconds. Harrison shook his head. Almost simultaneously, I heard his nearly inaudible murmur. "Impossible. How could it be him? Yeah, how could it be me?" I followed Harrison from a distance, thinking numbly. Because Vinny is a complete spy, willing to take a bullet and fake illness to achieve his goals. He couldn't possibly use the alias Janine to silently protect you, right? But Janine is me. On the return trip, Harrison ordered the driver to drive very fast. Upon arrival, he went straight to the dungeon. The room temperature seemed even colder. The plum wine pheromones had become thin and faint, almost undetectable. The Omega, originally tied to the chair, was now lying quietly on the floor, his head tilted weakly to one side. Harrison had been walking fast, but he suddenly slowed down, as if something had glued his feet to the floor. At this moment, he saw my pale, sleeping face. "Vinny." Harrison stood at the door, calling my name fiercely. But the Omega remained motionless, eyes closed. The family doctor was kneeling beside the Omega, performing first aid with a portable device. He turned back, looking miserable, and said to Harrison, "I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Vinny really has no breath or heartbeat." The electronic screen beside me showed a rhythmic heartbeat pattern. Harrison saw it. He rushed in and grabbed the doctor by the collar. "What nonsense are you talking about? The ECG clearly shows his heartbeat." The doctor's face turned red as he explained, "Sir, that is the effect of the resuscitation machine. Once we stop, it will show a flat line. Then don't stop." Harrison roared, eyes glaring wide. "It's just one shot of Inducer. No Omega dies just from taking an Inducer. Cure him. Make him wake up." He threw the doctor aside. He called his secretary and ordered a medical team. With maximum speed, the top floor of the villa was set up as a state-of-the-art emergency ward. Harrison stood at the door of the ward, face ashen. He automatically blocked out the brain death diagnosis the doctors gave me. He only demanded they maintain my vital signs. The representative of the medical team was an older alpha. He persuaded patiently, "Sir, perhaps this person is very important to you, but not important." Harrison interrupted the doctor sharply. His body and expression were incredibly tense. His tone was cold and hard. "He is not important to me. I'm not allowing him to die simply because he still has many important questions he hasn't answered." The doctor looked at him for a few seconds and continued, "But he really cannot be saved. Right now, machines can maintain his breathing and heartbeat. But in a few days, his organs will completely fail, and the machines will be useless." The words fell. Harrison's breathing suddenly became rapid. "It must be fake." "Doctor, what did you say?" Harrison said with certainty, "He must be trying to fake his death, to wake up after he leaves me. He must have taken some drug beforehand. That's why he went into a coma after the inducer. Yes, his omega gland doctor must have helped him do it." Saying this, he took out his phone and called his subordinate. A short while later, the doctor who had previously diagnosed my gland aftereffects was brought upstairs. Harrison looked dark and sinister. Looking down from above, he said, "You make him wake up right now." The doctor walked to the bedside in confusion and saw my face clearly. "Vinny?" The doctor was astonished. "What happened to him?" Harrison sneered and said harshly, "Stop acting. Didn't you help him use the heat fever to fake death in front of me?" "Apologies, sir. I have no idea what you're talking about." The doctor said calmly, "Mr. Vinny is indeed my patient, but I never gave him any drug to help him fake death. He was diagnosed with severe gland aftereffects 6 months ago. The specific cause was a gunshot wound 2 years ago."
Impossible.
Harrison interrupted him, stepping closer. He started crying pain every day right after his injury healed, pretending to have aftereffects to cheat me out of attention and pheromones. "It's impossible, he was only diagnosed 6 months ago, so he doesn't have any gland aftereffects at all." The doctor took out his portable computer and logged into the medical system. He showed the screen to Harrison. "Mr. Harrison, see for yourself. This is the record from Mr. Vinny's first visit 6 months ago to his last. I don't know why he showed dependence on you right after the injury, but these diagnostic records are enough to prove he did suffer from gland aftereffects." Harrison frowned at the computer screen, saying nothing. The doctor continued, "Aftereffects need time to manifest. At first, the symptoms might not have been obvious, easily relieved just by physical contact with an alpha. But later, the gland would frequently malfunction, making the omega crave alpha pheromones intensely. You are his alpha. These things, did you really not notice any of them?" Harrison didn't answer. Brows furrowed, lips pressed into a tight line. His gaze lingered for a long time on the words gland pain intensifying in the records. After a moment, Harrison asked in a hoarse voice, "What if he was injected with an inducer? Inducing heat leads to gland collapse. It's life-threatening." The doctor was shocked. He knew all this very well. How could he agree to the injection? Harrison's face went white, inch by inch. His lips moved several times, only managing to utter a few jumbled, blurry words. "He begged me, said don't, but I thought I was lying, playing the victim, using the old injury from taking the bullet as leverage. So he didn't believe me, and then, disregarding my pleading, injected me with the inducer. Out of 10,000 ways to interrogate, Harrison chose the worst one." The doctor said painfully, "Mr. Vinny came to the hospital alone every time. Even when he was in so much pain he couldn't walk properly, he still wouldn't let me contact you. He said his alpha was a very important person, and he couldn't let you worry about such small things." Through the glass, I looked at myself lying in the emergency room, covered in tubes and wires. I smiled self-deprecatingly. Actually, Harrison wouldn't worry at all. At most, just a bit of guilt. Whether it was getting hurt for him before or dying because of him now, it shouldn't be enough to make him sad. Because I really was an undercover agent. Even if I liked Harrison very, very much, I was just a very short interlude in his life. He would soon achieve his wishes, avenge his parents, become the Federation president admired by the world. Forget little Vinny from the orphanage, the mysterious Janine, and the unlucky spy Vinny. But, Harrison, are you stupid? I stood quietly in the corner, saying to him from afar 3 names so obvious. How did you just not notice? Only the bedside lamp was on in the ward. Harrison stood in the shadows, even his breathing carrying a bewildered urgency. Vinny, you can't die. Harrison looked at the person on the bed. Using a tone he had never used before, lacking confidence, he asked the doctor, you are an expert on omega glands. You can definitely save him, right? The doctor sighed softly. Before he could speak, the secretary suddenly walked over quickly. He handed my communicator to Harrison, saying urgently, Sir, we recovered the deleted messages on the communicator. We found a newly received message. It's actually from the President of the Republic. Harrison took the communicator numbly. He saw the small screen displaying the message from the President. Respected Janine, apologies for using special technology to find your contact information. Do you require assistance? The text shook. It was Harrison's hand trembling slightly. He exited the page, clumsily tapping into the recovered sent box. He saw all the messages I had sent to Harlan over the past 2 years. Over 100 messages. All of them were deceptive, misleading fake news. Not a single one exposed Harrison's true whereabouts. Interspersed among them were the messages I sent to the President of the Republic. Mr. President, if you can ensure Harrison's safety in the Republic, I will spare no effort to assist you. Harrison put down the communicator, looking blankly at the omega on the bed. He walked to the bedside. As if his body couldn't support him, he slumped onto the edge of the bed. How could it be like this? Why? Why protect you? Because I came back to your side, just to protect you. Harrison held my hand, releasing a massive amount of pheromones. The volcanic ash pheromones were no longer domineering. Like clouds, they gently cradled the omega's body, as if this could stop the omega from fading away. Vinny, Harrison whispered my name. Then, in a very painful, difficult tone, he said, don't die, okay? What do I have to do for you to get better? Tell me, Vinny. Please, tell me what to do. Harrison had always been a man of few words. He always spoke to state facts calmly or give orders. He wasn't skilled at apologizing. He rambled incoherently for a long time before finally saying sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. I shouldn't have given you the inducer. I shouldn't have. Harrison's shoulders were broad. Leaning down slightly, his shadow covered me. He looked at the omega's closed eyes, begging devoutly and humbly, give me one more chance. Please. There were no more chances. The numbers on the monitor were slowly dropping. I saw my soul becoming transparent along with them. Harrison, we have no future. Gland transplant. Harrison suddenly rushed to the doctor, grabbing his arm forcefully, speaking with agitation. If we transplant a healthy gland, he can survive, right? The doctor didn't seem to have the heart to strike him down again. He said, theoretically, yes, but if it's possible, do it. Harrison refused to hear but. He instantly energized, immediately calling the Gland Donation Bank and all the senior executives of his group, saying they must find a healthy, transplantable omega gland as soon as possible. The other party could name any condition they wanted. Just as he ended the call, Harrison's phone rang again. He answered nervously, only to hear the bodyguard's voice. Sir, as you expected, Mr. Chase did sneak into Mr. Vinny's room. He found something in a lockbox under Mr. Vinny's bed. Should we bring him up for questioning now? No. A cold light flashed in Harrison's bloodshot eyes. He said icily, take him to the dungeon. When I followed Harrison into the dungeon, Chase was tied to the same chair I had sat in. Sir. Seeing Harrison, Chase spoke urgently, let me explain. Where is the item? Harrison didn't even look at him, speaking to the bodyguard beside him. The bodyguard produced a small, transparent sealed bag. The moment Harrison saw it, his gaze and his entire body were nailed in place. Inside the sealed bag was a hairpin I found in his pocket the year I switched clothes with him. It was the only keepsake his mother left him at the time. Harrison's breathing seemed to stop. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out, until a water droplet landed on the sealed bag, making a tiny sound. Harrison was crying. I had actually seen Harrison cry before, but that was a long time ago. Early morning at the orphanage. I was half asleep when I suddenly felt the warmth gone from the blanket. I realized Harrison wasn't there. Bleary-eyed, I found him. He was sitting alone on a small stool in the backyard. Moonlight spilled on Harrison's face, reflecting glittering shards of light. Are you crying? I squatted in front of him, widening my eyes to look closely. Harrison frowned, saying fiercely, "No." I laughed, sitting next to him, squeezing against him. "What is this?" I pretended to grab the pearl-encrusted hairpin in his hand, saying, "So pretty." Harrison looked unhappy and clenched the hairpin in his palm, hiding it from me. I pulled my hand back, blinked a few times, and asked, "That was your mom's, right? Do you miss her?" Harrison didn't speak. I asked again, "Did she not want you anymore?" Harrison was furious, roaring at me in a low voice, "She didn't. Your mom didn't want you." I gave a silly laugh and said earnestly, "I'm sorry. How about you beat me until I cry, and I'll be sad with you?" But Harrison suddenly wasn't angry anymore. He even apologized to me. "Sorry, I didn't mean to say that about your mom." I said it's okay because she really didn't want me. I've already forgotten what she looks like, so I won't cry over her. Harrison's nose was still red. He asked in a muffled voice, "Then what would make you cry?" I said immediately, "You. If you suddenly went away and didn't want me anymore, I would cry." So, after being tied to the chair and injected with the inducer, I really cried. I wasn't lying, because I knew the hairpin was important to Harrison. So I treasured it, putting it in a sealed bag. I bought a lockbox and hid it under my bed. I should have shown it to Harrison when we reunited. Then triumphantly told him, "Look, I took good care of your mom's stuff. Now will you believe I'm Vinny?" But I couldn't, because I wasn't sure if he had Harlan's people around him. So I didn't dare act rashly. I tried hard to play the role of an ordinary spy, hoping Harrison would successfully get help from the Republic and return safely to the Federation a little sooner, to become the person he was meant to be. It was almost time. I thought, it won't be too late to tell him then. So I guarded the secret, did so many silly things, but ran out of time to tell Harrison the most important thing. "Vinny, Vinny, Vinny, little Vinny. Ha ha, ha 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 ha." Harrison muttered to himself with unfocused eyes, then laughed abruptly. He hunched his back. Clutching the hairpin in his hands, he fell to his knees. He was laughing, but it looked so painful, so sad. "Harrison," he said hoarsely, "you are such a fool. He found you, and stayed by your side for so long. How could you not realize?" "Vinny, my Vinny," Harrison rambled on incoherently, scaring the people around him into silence. Only Chase shouted regardless of everything, "Sir, calm down. Vinny really is a spy. He really came to harm you. I just wanted to investigate his background. Release me." The rest of the words were choked off in his throat by Harrison. He couldn't get them out. You knew who he was from the start. Veins bulged on Harrison's hands, his eyes red as he looked down at him. You impersonated him, and intentionally feigned illness to stall, preventing the doctor from coming down to see him. Isn't that right? Chase opened his mouth like a dying fish, suffocating. Harrison threw him aside and roared, "Speak! Cough, cough." Chase hung his head, gasping and coughing, then suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Heh, so what if I did? You are the one who killed Vinny. You suspected I was a fake from the start. Why did you use Vinny to test me? You noticed something was wrong with his condition long ago. Why didn't you go in to see him yourself?" Harrison. Pain flashed in Chase's eyes as he whispered, "People who love you are destined to sacrifice for you. Fortunately, I didn't completely fall in love with you. I originally wanted to use the details of Vinny's past that Harlan dug up to fool you, so I could stay by your side forever. But forget it." As he spoke, Chase crushed down hard with his teeth, because a large stream of dark red blood suddenly flowed from the corner of his lips as he spoke with difficulty. "Harrison, the only person you love is yourself." The dungeon fell into dead silence again. Chase died. He died unwillingly, eyes still open. The bodyguards cleaned up the body and the blood, leaving Harrison standing alone in the same spot. He was right. He seemed to be replaying Chase's words repeatedly. Expression numb, he said, "The person who killed Vinny was me, standing there like a withered tree all night." Harrison returned to the ward the next morning. "Vinny, you won't die." He looked at me intently, speaking seriously and stubbornly. "I won't let you die. I will save you. There's time. There's definitely time." From that day on, Harrison's daily routine became even more rigorous. He moved into my ward. He brought most of his work in too, working day and night to push forward the sanctions plan against Harlan. Because he stayed up every night, Harrison slept very little. But whether in meetings or during brief rests, Harrison always held his phone. He was waiting for a healthy gland that matched mine. The day Harlan was captured, Harrison came back very late. Due to physical exhaustion and heavy injuries, his volcanic ash pheromones were unstable, thin, and weak. He hadn't even changed his blood-stained clothes. He slumped by the bed and said to me, "Vinny, sorry, I came back late." Harrison's face was pale. The ferocity in his eyes completely faded. He appeared gentle and sleepy. "Vinny, do you know?" He looked at me, a tiny light igniting in his pupils. Lips curling slightly, he said slowly, "I made all of Harlan's crimes public today. Soon, I will return to the Federation to take over as president. The Federation's jurisdiction covers over 20 countries. 20. I stood to the side, thinking with relief. It's alpha nature after all. Fame, fortune, and status make you happy. This is good. When I'm completely gone, you won't be too sad." But, I heard Harrison say in an almost faint voice, "Over 20 countries means I can find a suitable gland for you faster. So many countries, so many people. There must be one who can save you. Vinny, hold on a little longer. Okay?" Harrison's shoulders were trembling, afraid of dirtying me. He reached his bloodied hand toward my cheek, then pulled it back. He buried his head beside me, choking with sobs. "Vinny, please, don't leave me alone." Just as he said, 3 days later, Harrison received a call from a distant country. They said there was a local Omega suffering from bone cancer, in great pain. He wanted to give up treatment early and donate his gland. After typing, the results showed his gland was a high match for my body. I stood blankly behind Harrison, watching him clutch the phone, weeping with joy, thanking the person on the other end repeatedly. Could it be? Can I really survive? Vinny, almost there. Face covered in tears, Harrison propped his arms on the bed, leaning over to look at me. 6 hours. Vinny, we just have to wait 6 more hours. I've sent a helicopter to pick him up. The surgeon is on standby. He was very happy. Even his pheromones and tone became light. Soon, we can be together again. Together again? I watched all of this with cold detachment, feeling exhausted from the bottom of my heart. If I open my eyes again, how should I face Harrison? How do I face the person who once killed me? Life and death partings leave no room for turning back. I've wasted too much time by Harrison's side. Let it go. I stood in front of Harrison, silently said to him, "Let it go. I don't hate you, but I don't want to love you anymore." But Harrison's gaze went straight through me, still landing on the Omega on the bed, full of gentle expectation and love. He couldn't hear me, still stubbornly, domineeringly wanting to hold on to me. Knock, knock, knock. The ward door was suddenly knocked on. The secretary opened the door and entered. "Mr. President, it is time for the press conference. There are many reporters at the venue, waiting for your appearance." Harrison nodded, signaling him to wait outside. He leaned down, gently touching his forehead to the Omega's temple. Softly, he said, "The venue is very close. I'll just be gone for a little while. Vinny, wait for me to come back." After speaking, Harrison turned and left the room. A few minutes later, the monitor by the bed suddenly let out a piercing alarm. Doctors and nurses flooded the room, surrounding the Omega on the bed. "Notify the president immediately. Mr. Vinny's condition is critical." "No, Today is the president's first public appearance since taking office. It cannot be interrupted. Continue resuscitation. At least make Mr. Vinny last until the press conference is over. I watched the chaotic scene before me, finding the sounds of reality becoming more and more distant, gradually inaudible. My soul became completely transparent, turning weightless. I walked out, instantly arriving at Harrison's side. The press conference was grand. Harrison stood at the podium, surrounded like a star by the moon, looking high-spirited. I smiled with relief, said my final goodbye to him. We will never see each other again. Harrison. The next second, the phone at Harrison's hand rang. As soon as he picked it up, the venue fell silent. The voice on the other end was clear, solemn and heavy with grief. I am sorry, Mr. President. Mr. Vinny suffered sudden multiple organ failure. He has passed away. Harrison froze. He held the phone, unable to make a sound. You could hear a pin drop in the venue. A reporter suddenly pressed the shutter. A flash of silver light, like a sword, cut through. Harrison's body jerked abruptly. He put down the phone, recovering as if revived. With a composed expression, he smiled appropriately and asked, "Apologies. Where was I?" Years later, some people still mentioned that young, legendary former president. They said he met with tragedy as a child, losing both parents. Fortunately, he was brilliantly talented and worked hard to govern, eventually becoming the youngest Federation president in history. They also said he resigned without warning just days after taking office, disappearing without a trace. During the chat, someone took out an old newspaper showing off the photo on it. The young Federation president stood behind the podium. The phone in his hand was still held to his ear. He was handsome, standing tall and straight. Only those eyes looked like dried-up wells. Some guessed he received bad news at that moment. Some suspected he was under fatal threat or blackmail. Finally, someone shook their head mysteriously, saying with certainty, "You all guessed wrong. That president resigned because of alcoholism." Seeing the cold glances from the crowd, the man explained anxiously, "Hey, don't look at me like that. I saw it with my own eyes. A long time ago by the sea, I saw him hugging a wooden box, sitting on a very, very high rock. His clothes weren't buttoned properly, his hair messed up by the wind. He was muttering something, sounding like he was asking for vintage wine, or Vinny. No matter how you looked at it, he just looked like a greedy drunkard